Hey girl.
Hey mama.
Ready to get unschooled?
Totally.
Welcome to Moms Unschooled,
where we break down all the things from the mundane to the magnificent, so you can think for yourself and do what's right for you.
The kids just got off their bus for the official first day of face-to-face school back where we live, and I have former PTA president, now homeschooling mom, Erin.
Welcome again to Moms Unschooled, and I'm feeling a little unschooled at the moment.
So tell us, what is going on right now with your homeschooling situation?
Not a lot.
Okay.
I think we're all in the same boat. Everybody's a little bit frazzled. Let me preface all this by saying I'm frazzled because 3 of my children are in your apartment right now. So, I mean, we're going to hear dogs barking.
Yes.
We're going to hear children screaming or Pokemon battles. So bear with us. This is real life, y'all. Former PTA president goes to homeschooling. This is for real. I mean, if that's not a 180, I don't know what is. But a lot of questioning and thoughts and research and quite honestly, like what my heart and my mind was telling me about this year, what's best for my family. And man alive, I never thought that was going to be my answer.
So when did you start kind of feeling that homeschool, maybe that will be our thing?
During the spring with e-learning. Now, I have last spring, a second grader, a first grader, and a preschool child. He attends a full-time kind of a daycare. We call it German kindergarten because we're here in Germany. But he was also home during e-learning as well. So I had all 3 children that I was trying to educate and also pacify. And the e-learning for the second grader and first grader was, quite frankly, a hot mess in my household. Let me say that I absolutely love our school because if our kids were going to school, they would be going to the same school. I love the teachers. My kids always came home happy. E-learning is where I started getting really frazzled and disenchanted. The teachers did an amazing turnaround. They completely created this curriculum and these syllabi out of nowhere. I mean, coronavirus was thrown at all of us. Administration, communities, families, teachers, and the teachers had, about 3 days, 4 days to just gather their thoughts, figure out some technology, utilize all of these different software and programs. And, I'm thinking about like Benchmark or YouTube channels for math videos. All of this was scrambled into a syllabus with Google Chats, and we as parents were to facilitate what they were giving us in terms of educating. It did not work for my family.
I have to add that for 1 week of kindergarten, there was one time a 19-page Google Doc instruction document. I literally have a PhD. I read instructions for this one science homework thing probably 8 times, and I still didn't understand it. So
I
don't know what that says about me, but
that or was the syllabus for your kindergartner or for the mother?
Oh, my child doesn't even know how to use a computer, much less read on the screen.
So yeah. I am not throwing anyone under the bus when they just spewed this e-learning at us. It is not going to work for my children who don't even know how to type their own name in the system with an uppercase shift button, let alone try to put in passwords, 5 different login systems every day for 2 children, not to mention scheduling their Google Chats, or trying to keep my son's attention span going forward for the half hour of his Google Chat through a show and share.
I believe as well your husband was home for a little bit at some point. So that's
having his own conference calls across the room, which is fine. Like, our family thrived. We were happy and healthy through it all. My spazoid moments were due to the e-learning. Now, the week between when school's out for summer, the Friday we went to canceled school to I think the Thursday we went to e-learning, we did a little bit as a family. The 3 children and myself did kind of group exercises. My daughter is a reading fanatic. She would read us, say, a fairy tale, and we would do puppetry to include my 4-year-old at the time. We did our math, and the weather was beautiful. We were just trying to kind of utilize our environment, and it was so great. the e-learning is where I started really questioning if this was the route I wanted to go as we went forward, still through uncertain times. I like the idea of going back to school. I wanted it for my kids. My children are very social. They were going to loop with the teachers that I adored, and looping, for people who don't know, is how we're describing it, defining it, is my first grade son was going to go to second grade with the teacher he had in first grade. The entire class was going to move up to second grade. And so on for my daughter from second to third as well. These were all very enticing things for me to send them back to school. Mm-hmm. But I knew if we go back to school, e-learning is a distinct possibility if the world shuts down again. Now, that's my verbiage. It sounds a little dramatic. That's just how I simplify coronavirus. Virtual learning was a second option for us, which was to enroll your child in the virtual learning. You had to do that before the beginning of the year. And it was its own separate entity. Virtual learning had its own curriculum, its own teachers, and you were signing up to do that for the semester in its entirety. So you had virtual learning or going back to school with the possibility of e-learning. And considering, like I've already discussed, my kids don't know how to use the shift key, neither one of those was going to be a strong choice for us. The other reason I didn't want to send them to school was the masks. I don't like wearing them. I can't imagine trying to wear a mask and trying to learn and speak through it. I can't imagine how the teachers are trying to educate, discipline, and articulate through those things, let alone our children. And I know some classes are varying in the amounts of time the kids have to wear a mask due to class sizes. They're giving them mask breaks in the hallway or mask breaks at the window. That still, in my mind, is a distraction to the through line of educating for that day. As much as I don't like wearing masks, I couldn't do that to my kids. So, boom! I'm a homeschooling mom.
And when you think about the mask stuff, you have mentioned to me before, it is potentially just another thing the kids are going to get nagged about at school.
Yes. Social distancing. If I had a dime every time I heard that phrase. But if you think about it, how often do our kids hear it? I mean, we're talking about elementary students who constantly have their hands all over each other. They cannot keep their hands to themselves, let alone create a space bubble of 6 feet. And I hope things are really going smoothly in the schools. I just can't even imagine my kids, who I think are pretty easy in a classroom, being able to do that. The constant nagging of wearing the masks and socially distancing. I kind of see how much they're nagged, I'm sorry to say that word, in the school system to be quiet. Eat your food. Well, don't climb too high. Don't swing too high. I feel like those are their moments to be free and active children. The nagging was already there, and I just believe the masks and the social distancing is going to increase that tenfold. You can say, well, I mean, nagging is nagging. They're going to get at their kids. But with that amount of nagging, that's distracting to the education as well. I couldn't do it.
And so when you kind of had this feeling of, I'm not comfortable sending my family into this situation, mm-hmm. the homeschool world, as I've come to realize, as I've done my own research, is a whole nother ballgame, right? What were your kind of criteria that you were looking for in a program that you thought might work for your family particularly?
Well, first and foremost, I wanted something I can travel with, because that's another huge priority of ours currently. We live in Germany, and while the borders are still open, we are going to travel as much as we possibly can, knowing that it's a distinct possibility that borders will be closed again. So travel is key for me. Also, I wanted something we can do together. My children are just a grade level apart, and I feel like there's so much you can do as a family, as a cohesive unit, to learn together, to get excited together, to ask questions together and research that together, the cohesiveness of it all. And I needed something I could get excited about. When I started researching all of the different curriculums, I wanted a full box set. I'm a first-time homeschooling mom. I want to hit the easy button, tell me what to do, keep it organized for me so I can hold myself accountable, because I'm also not very structured. And so the full curriculum box sets were going to help me move forward and have a more successful year this year. But I had to find a curriculum I was excited about, and the children will fall into step.
I think that's a really good point, because there were definitely days during virtual school in the spring where my son could tell I was super frustrated at what we were being asked to do, and I think he totally picked up on that. And if I was muttering under my breath how silly something was, he was not going to be very excited to do it. Okay, so great advice. So all right, you had mentioned some things about how you kind of started to look at and research different programs, and one thing we had talked about before is getting them off the computer.
Yes. That is, thank you for reminding me, probably the biggest reason I didn't want them doing virtual or e-learning. They get so much screen time every day. And I think I'm probably considered a bit of a stickler these days. I don't really think I'm strict on screen time. I think I want them to be kids. As they're screaming in the background, if you can hear them right now, they're playing hard. They need to play. They need to wiggle. And so I encourage that. I don't encourage screen time. They get plenty of screen time, but to have their entire school day be wrapped around sitting in front of a computer, I couldn't do it to them.
So once you kind of had those general criteria in mind for how to pick a program for your family, it seemed like I had talked to you kind of one week about, oh, you're highly, highly considering it. And then it seems like fairly quickly you had like 2 or 3 programs that you were like, this is for us. How did you kind of pick which program to go with ultimately?
I had one curriculum ready to go, ready to hit pay if I decided to go that direction. And mostly because they would segment an entire school year of learning of, say, math into 10 units. Almost smaller 10 unit booklets. There's our kids asking us stuff, opening and shutting doors. And I thought that was a little bit more manageable for their little hands. It wasn't this huge, overwhelming book for them to open. I mean, you can rip out little 10-unit packet books, and there's no pressure. You go, and it's very easy to travel with. And I was ready to hit go on that when my mother...
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Although, no, really, Mom, thanks. She tagged me in a post. I don't even know how to use the right words on FB. Tagged me in a post on this Bookshark. And Bookshark is essentially Sunlight Curriculum's sister company. It's almost the exact same as Sunlight, but this is actually the secular curriculum of the company. So when I found Bookshark, for those of you who know Sunlight, I am looking at real books to teach my kids. So we went from textbooks to ding dong to little unit packet books to real books that my kids can hold, read, we can peruse together, we can look at these beautiful pictures, like Us Born is part of the books in this curriculum. You're looking at I Can Read readers. They have Dr. Seuss in these full box set curriculums. Real books that my kids can enjoy, I can enjoy with them, and they're going to sit on my shelf until they're much older.
Yeah, it's not a workbook you just do once and throw away. And from what I understand, I don't know, whatever book you're doing, that feeds into history for the week or maybe a science lesson for the week, all kind of related to that content sometimes.
Exactly. So history is actually their foundation of what everything kind of segments off of. And what's really neat about this is the history portion, my 2 kids, 2nd grade and 3rd grade, and I can all do together. I have my own, it's a ginormous binder, and I open it and we read those pages and say the history book. We discuss those. We see if any questions arise and we can research those at our leisure. And then their reader books, they read out loud to themselves. Those segue in to something that we're discussing. So right now, I chose the world history curriculum. We are living in the world right now, and instead of doing American history, I want them to learn about ancient Greece, ancient Rome, with the hopes that we can go there. So I take this book, we're reading all about this history together, and then my third grader goes off for her 20 minutes of read alone time, and she's reading about Pompeii or the Great Wall of China. And we can come back and continue to move forward that way. So the things I read aloud to them are not only novels, but there's also fiction and nonfiction that are part of the history program. And then you have math that's completely separate. And then science is actually its own separate entity, but my second and third grader will be able to do those units and experiments together, but it's, obviously a different kind of focus and theme.
Right, but I like how those are also completely hands-on, and it's not a science worksheet about trees.
Exactly. Now, we have worksheets, but they're short little worksheets to really, get your juices flowing, make you question and want to research more in maybe a completely different way. You've got a book that can be an Usborne World of Animals book for science, but then you also can go into space, and then you also have things like the magic school bus that goes into a human body. So you're bringing out the magic, the mystique to inspire kids to want more. And I fell in love with this curriculum.
I love that idea. And I'm excited to hear how your kids respond to it and how it works for your family. And the fact that they get to keep all the books, because it's an investment, especially for 3 kids. I know you're focusing just on the 2 right now, but at least they're close in age. And so as you were making this decision, given the investment in your time, your money, and just your family dynamic, what were your husband's thoughts about homeschool, and how involved was he in making that decision?
Oh, good question. My husband is my partner, best friend, partner in crime, and I throw stuff out at him all the time. The poor man. I'm the roller coaster in the relationship. He's the flat line. He's balance and perspective for me. And so when Erin goes on a crazy tangent or has a crazy idea, he listens, he absorbs it, and then he gives me his perspective on it. And when I brought this up, kind of just testing the waters a little bit, he was all for it. It made sense to him. And the more we discussed it, the more we heard about the environment that we were moving forward with in terms of school and coronavirus and potential spiking of numbers coming soon and so on, it just made sense.
I would say, as you mentioned that, one thing that it's not just about the curriculum right now, because we're also having to consider, are schools going to close? Are they going to open? And what sort of consistency do you want for your kids?
Exactly. We could literally go day to day. The kids could be in school today on Wednesday, be shut down on Thursday, and go right back on Monday, depending on the numbers of cases per capita. So with that, he not only was gung-ho, game on about the homeschooling, I started picking his brain about the curriculum because Erin didn't find the cheapest one. And
can you really put a price on education besides you can because they tax us for it? But in any way, go ahead.
I saw dollar signs when our public education was looking pretty good and really, really matched my pocketbook. But I told him the bottom dollar, what I was looking at this curriculum, and he said, don't think about the price. Think about what gets you excited. He knew I'm the one that will be doing the brunt of the teaching this year. I am a stay-at-home mom, and he goes to work 5 days a week. I tend to be more in line with the education flow as it is. But he is a very hands-on dad. He's going to come home and not afraid to do flashcards, not afraid to look over journal entries. He reads to them every night. He is just as invested in this as I am, and that his support is like exactly what I have to be successful at something.
That's so important, because I have talked to homeschoolers on the street who have said their significant other has no idea what happens at home, has no idea, what the kids are working on. And I'm not saying they have to know every single detail, but homeschooling seems like a feat that you take on as a family. because it changes the dynamic for everyone. And so if everyone's not on the same page, I can see how that can totally be a struggle for people. And then I've talked to friends who then they feel resentful because they felt like they made the decision together. And then once the school year starts, so-and-so is nowhere to be found or, things like that. So I think that's really great to hear.
And I'm just now starting this, but I feel like we've been doing this since March a little bit. Due to e-learning, we continue to do a little bit of work through the school year, through the summertime. I think when you become a homeschooling family, you don't get to say school is from 8 to 3. It is all day long, every day. Saturday mornings, you are out there learning and living in the world, and that counts. And we have to be cognizant of that, open to that, and patient enough to deal with it. It will take over our lives now, but in a good way.
And I'm sorry, I love how you said homeschool family. Can we get unschooled about this homeschool mom thing? Because it's not just the mom. Okay, that's one person doing it, but if you are homeschooling in any capacity, you're a homeschooling family. And I wish people would get on that page, because then you get all the stereotypes about what a homeschooling, quote, mom is supposed to be like or not. And if anything good comes out of the hard decisions that people have had to make for this school year, maybe we will just have more open and broader perspectives about honoring that our friends are doing what's best for their family and kids. And that's fine.
That's another episode in and of itself. You do you. I'm going to do me, your family does your family. And I've loved hearing the reasons behind everybody's choices. It's fascinating. Masks are a huge thing to me. No go. My daughter even said, if we have to wear masks in school, I'm not going. But the other reasons that people are choosing virtual or homeschool or going back to school full time, it's fascinating. And families are so colorful and diverse, and it makes sense. And why wouldn't we have 3 options and have so many people leaning in those directions? I think it's fascinating and beautiful, and no mom shaming about it.
Thanks for listening to Moms Unschooled.
Subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, or email us at momsunschooled@gmail.com. Choosy!